well, I do think we have another movie-esque performance here between Paulo Costa, Borrachinha, and Luke Rockhold. Now, Rockhold came in with the amazing energy, the interview. He came in ready to go. He says, listen, when he suffers adversity, the man quits. He gives up. I power through. I never quit. I may have lost fights. I may have gotten knocked out, but I've never quit on myself. Now, AJ, there's another implication here that we have yet to talk about that didn't seem to impact the main event, but I do think it impacted every other fight. And that is Salt Lake City. Elevation, Utah, baby. Come on, man. Listen, people are getting tired all over the place. That definitely made this card really weird in terms of a wagering perspective. And Paulo Costa and Luke Rockhold were literally gassed after round one. The only problem was here, AJ, X's and O's wise, Rockhold, even Costa gave him credit. He says everyone says he has a glass chin. He surprised me. The man has a good chin, right? So you got to give him that. Rockhold was looking good. He was looking sharp. Costa did what Costa does every time, walks through shots. You take him down, he just stands back up. You know what I mean? He even took down Rockhold, right? So it was impressive going back and forth. But let's fast forward to the climax of the night, right, AJ? They're fighting. Rockhold's bloodied up. His nose is broken. He's breathing hard. He's on hands on knees. Mid round, not even waiting until the end of the round, mid round, like, oh, fuck. All right, now we get back up. And he looks at Costa. And just like a movie, AJ, he says, fuck you. Fucking throws the right hand, cracks him, does it again, cracks him again. And it's just like, bro, I'm like, well, what kind of a night are we watching right now? This is cinema. It was amazing, man. And before we talk about the retirement aspect of it, Luke Rockhold did put up a valiant effort. But being that he's a former middleweight UFC champion, former Strikeforce champion, a dude who was another one of that old pack of vets, AJ, that have now been sent to pasture, we should have saw this coming. Paulo Costa, he got the better of him. He won every round. It was not really even close, but emotionally, if you're talking about pulling on the heartstrings, this is a very close fight. So what did you think about the action?
Very close fight and closer than honestly I was expecting after watching round one, because I thought Luke Rockhold was going back to the old bouncing your head around like a pinball machine Luke Rockhold, where he gets caught a little bit, gets pushed up against the cage, and then gets beat up on, because that's Paulo Costa's style, man. And even you look at the numbers on this one, 106 total strikes versus 57 to Luke Rockhold. It seems that way, where this is Paulo Costa's just the classic style of fight. But since it actually went to decision, that's what I thought. I was like, damn, this one's a little closer than I was expecting. Not a night like, 30-27s across the board. It wasn't a close fight, especially seeing Luke Rockhold, like you said, huffing and puffing on his hand, like hands on knees, huffing and puffing and throwing big shots coming in. Not the most spectacular performance for Luke Rockhold, but the fact that he didn't get knocked out, I think, is a big moral victory. And I'm happy to see that he's actually made the call to retire. But honestly, I was kind of like, oh damn, he might have a couple more in him. Like this dude, it seemed like the mental was there during the entire fight. Definitely a pre-fight. But the gas tank, man, and that's we always talk about it on the show. Every MMA, everybody talks about it. The worst thing, or the biggest fear for every fighter in there is not being able to defend yourself because you're too damn tired. And when you're sitting there, hands on your knees, huffing and puffing, and you got Borrachinha stalking you down, bro, that's one of probably the scariest moments anybody could ever witness. And just thinking like, I got to throw Hail Marys, fuck you, and just throwing big hooks, because that's pure adrenaline and fear coming out and saying, I got to actually do something to stop this guy from beating me up.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think the craziest part about it, the reason why I think Rockhold was able to hold up as long as he did, honestly, is because Costa took a kind of interesting approach, right? He says, oh, I can see you're tired, so I'm not going to headhunt. I'm just going to blast you to the body every chance that I get, right? So I think if he would have headhunted a little bit more, we could have saw a knockout. I thought Rockhold was on the verge of getting knocked out a couple of times, but then Costa, on one hand, probably saying, let me not gas myself out, because Costa was looking exhausted too. Like, let's be real about the situation. But overall, pretty much a dominating win for Paulo Costa. It's hard. Come on, man. It's hard for Luke Rockhold. Your first fight back in 3 years. You haven't won in 7 years, man. You have a lot of external things happening in the background, which leads us to that moment you were talking about, AJ. I think it's interesting that you said you're glad that he retired, because you know what? It kind of felt to me like he wasn't particularly retiring, but they were kind of forcing it on him. They're like, all right, brother, well, thanks, great career. And he was just sitting like hands on his head, crying. Joe Rogan shouldn't have even interviewed him, because he was not in the right mental state to be interviewed, because his ass is sitting there going through all the emotions and just like looking up like, God damn, man, this is so hard. I can't do this anymore. Then he had some humor, because you could tell he was about to get deep, and then he just cut it all off and he was like, I'm fucking old, bro, whatever. He didn't lay his gloves down in the middle of the cage. That's another interesting indicator. He hasn't necessarily come out and says, "Hey, happy retirement for me." Da 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 da. So, do you think that like I'm on point right there? I honestly feel like they're pushing him out. They're like, "All right, Rockhold, you got to be done now." So, what do you think?
Oh no, I agree with you. He didn't actually say I'm done, like I'm never doing this again. He just said I can't. And then
Yeah.
in that moment, you literally can't breathe. You can't think. You just got done 15 minutes of a fight. I think it was in the wrong mindset, and I do think it was a little bit more of a narrative being pushed that somebody that just went through all that and they can't breathe and they're sitting there like saying, "Oh man, I can't do this anymore." Those are just thoughts everybody goes through after every single loss. It's a very normal thing, and I think they're pushing him out towards retirement, not necessarily him saying, "Hey, this has been great, this has been fun, I'm out though, peace."
Yeah, exactly. So it was definitely an interesting one. And my last question to you before we move on and just discuss this little, how the wagering went in regards to this fight. Brother, did you think, because this is something that I thought was really interesting for like a Luke Rockhold, right? Coming into this fight, he was talking about how I don't quit. I got no quit in me. At any point during that fight, do you think he kind of quit on himself? Because there was a couple moments where I was just like, you look like you're giving yourself kind of the out. You know what I mean? When you revert to that, fuck you, and then you just, throw punches right there, you're kind of said, I'm throwing away all game plan. I'm just fighting off of just heart and emotion now. So at any point, do you think he was like, this is not a winnable fight?
I mean, I think so, but I don't know if that's necessarily quitting on yourself. If that's like, I feel like quitting on yourself is just turtling up, curling down, and letting him go. But if you're actually just have that little bit of fight left, I still wouldn't say he quit on himself. But it looked like that a couple times, especially when you're going back to the corner. First thing you do is throw your hands up on the thing, and your corner's telling you, "Bro, sit down. Like, turn around, look at me, sit down." And he's just not listening at all. Not a good look. Not a good look.
And what does the corner say? This is another case of not responding to your corner, right? He says, "Hey, take a seat, Luke, take a seat," and then he just keeps standing up. He's like, "All right, or don't," like, okay, whatever. At that point, your corner's trying to help you. You're not responding. Of course, it seemed like Rockhold was going through the trenches in his mind, like he was like really going through it mentally in this fight. So it seemed like that, and that's how it probably should get out of the sport at that point. But plus 335 for the decision victory for Paulo Costa, man. I mean, listen, he hasn't been on a crazy knockout tear as of late, but you thought this was a layup for a knockout. I thought so too. Decision win. Those who placed the decision prop on Costa, you're smart people right there. So big win.